Hello, welcome to week 4 integers. My video, this will be, it's the shortest lesson in the book. It's pretty standard, simple stuff, but there's definitely a few little tricks and nuggets to go over. I've noticed in my time teaching in the past that integers is one of those things that a lot of people just get it right away, no questions asked, and other people, it seems to be a little bit of a tricky, kind of not as easy a thing to grasp. They tend to get themselves a little bit confused. So hopefully we have majority, if not all, falling in the first category. And I'm going to attach another video. The video I found, most of them only touched on the basic operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But I want to talk about a little bit of the other things, and always I usually have a few personal nuggets to throw in. To make sure that there's stuff in there that I like to emphasize to make sure everyone's on the same page. So we're starting on page 73, understanding integers. And an integer simply is any whole number, positive or negative, and including zero. Like the book says, just think of positive and negative being opposites of each other. So each positive negative integer has its negative opposite. So like positive 8, negative 8, positive 117, negative 117. A few just little things to always just keep in mind going through this section. Always remember a positive number is always greater than a negative number. Okay, don't get yourself caught in that little trap of you see this huge number but it's negative. Like 2, positive 2 is greater than negative 197. Sometimes people see that big number and think, well, that's got to be bigger. And it's just a visual trick. But just always remember a positive number always bigger than a negative number. Also remember as you're going through this section, it sounds so much like it should be the most common thing, but it seems just something that always seems to come up in this chapter is if a number does not have a sign in front of it, it is a positive number. So if you see 6 plus negative 4, that 6 is a positive number. Or if you see negative 7 plus 5, that 5 is a positive number. Okay, don't let yourself get into that trap of going, wait a minute, it doesn't have a positive sign in front of it. Always remember that if it does not have a direct sign in front of it, it is always a positive number. The only time a number is negative, it has the minus sign right in front of it. So trust me, it sounds so dumb to say, but as we're going through, you'll be just happy that you have that lodged in there. The one thing the book does that I kind of don't like about this section is, remember by rule of definition of an integer, it's a whole number, okay? It does not include decimals or fractions. However, the book, as you'll see going through, it does include like negative decimals and negative fractions. Yes, those numbers are they're actual numbers, but they're not defined as integers. So I have a hard time why the book puts them in this section. I understand the principle is it wants you to get used to dealing with adding and subtracting negative numbers, multiplying them, different things like that. But still, it's just kind of, I think, throws a little curveball in there because by definition, an integer is only a whole number. It does not involve fractions or decimals. So that being said, just want to make sure that as you're going through and see, well, wait a minute, why are we dealing with negative decimals if they're not integers? Just the way the book does it. It wants you to get used to the operation of negative and positive numbers, is all I can say. The first page is very simple. Like I said, basically it's just talking about what I just said about the definitions. There's a number line at top. Obviously going to the left of the number line, you're dealing with negative numbers. You're going to the right, you're dealing with the positive numbers. And at the bottom, it's just simply you're identifying which number is bigger, which one's smaller. And again, you got to kind of trick your mind a little bit. Once you're on the negative side, remember a smaller number is actually bigger than a larger number. So like negative 6 is greater than negative 7. What I always try to tell the classes I've had is think the negative side in terms of owing somebody money. Would you rather owe somebody $6 or would you rather owe somebody $7? Obviously, you'd rather only owe 6. So that negative 6 is greater value than the -7. Okay, so once you're on the negative side of 0, always remember that the smaller the actual number, the more value it is than the bigger number. Okay, if that makes sense. And that's a good thing to know, like I said, going through. So two little things. Positive is always greater than negative, and once you're on the negative side with two numbers, the smaller the number, the greater the value is than the larger of the negative numbers. Flipping over to 74, we have absolute value. I'm sure a lot of people, I hope everybody has heard that term in the past, and it's simply the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. That being said, absolute value is always a positive number, always, okay? Even if you go to a negative value, if you start at 0 and go to -10, you've gone 10 places, okay? It's the distance from 0 to that number, okay? Doesn't matter if you're going positive or negative, it's just how far it is from 0. So just picture a city, picture Columbus. If you drive to Cleveland, you're going northeast, and you're going, I don't know how many miles it is, 150 maybe to Cleveland, I'm not sure. But if you went southeast to Cincinnati, it's like 110 miles, I think. Neither one of those distances is negative. You're not driving negative miles. You're going two different directions, but still you're thinking, what's the distance from Columbus? One direction's 150, the other one's 110. They're both positive values. So just kind of think along those terms of, you know, having a hub city and thinking the distances from each way. It's always a positive distance. And there's some examples there. So the absolute value of a positive number is just the same thing. So if I say, what's the absolute value of 7? It's 7. What's the absolute value of 15? It's 15. But then the only thing difference is if I say, what's the absolute value of -8? It's 8. What's the absolute value of -27? 27. Very, very simple. Don't overthink it. And again, what I don't like in through that section is it puts a lot of decimals and kind of fractions in there. Don't let that get you frustrated. Rules don't change. It's always positive. So if it's a decimal or a fraction, it's still absolute value, always positive. Always positive number. And then when you get to this section at 74, the problems 9 through 24, it wants to know which one's greater. Remember to change the signs first. So there are absolute values all through there. Make sure you change them to the absolute value before you determine which one's bigger. Okay, so make sure you do that. Going to page 75, we're adding integers. Very, very basic rules. There's not, you'll hear me say to my classes, there's usually 2 or 3 ways you can do all these problems. And the book gives you 2 of them. What I like to tell people, and I just kind of said a minute ago, is when I think of adding integers, the first little nugget, try to stop thinking of the plus sign as adding things together, and more so as combining 2 things. Now I know that sounds pretty much like the same thing, but as we're going through, you'll get what I'm saying. Adding, you automatically want to take the 2 things and say, like 7, 7, well, that's 14. 2, 9, that's 11. But when I say combine, I think of combining 2 things together. One could be bad, one could be good. Okay. Having said that, when it comes down to adding like a negative number and a positive number, if I say like you're adding -4 plus 6, I look at the negative as in I owe somebody $4. I'm down $4. And the plus number, I always say, is that's money that's coming into my pocket. Somebody owes me, or somebody's giving me. If I combine those 2 events, I owe this person over here $4, but this person over here owes me 6. Well, the combination of that is I'm going to be up $2. Okay. If I say I'm adding them, I automatically want to say I've got 4 over here, 6 over here, add it, that's 10. Okay. Well, in that case, you're adding 2 things that are opposite, so it doesn't work. If you combine them, the 2 events, you'll see how, like I said, I owe 4, but I'm gaining 6, and the net result is I'm up 2. Hope that is very, very clear. The book is very big on talking about the signs. Okay, when you have two signs that are exactly the same, so if both numbers are positive, you just add the two numbers together, keep the same sign, so it's positive. So positive 4 plus positive 6 is two positive numbers, add them together, it's 10, keep the same sign, positive. If you're adding two negative numbers, if it's negative 7 plus negative 4, both are negative, add it together, that's 11, keep the same sign, they're both negative, so it's negative 11. And then when it comes to adding from two different numbers, so you have positive 6 plus negative 5, okay, got one of each. Again, what I say to myself is about dealing with money. The book will tell you you have two opposites, you have a positive and a negative. Subtract those two numbers, okay, so positive 6, negative 5. 6 minus 5 leaves you with 1. And then the sign is whichever one of those numbers is larger. So since the negative goes with the 6, 6 is bigger than 5, so it's negative 6, that'll go with the negative 1, okay, with the answer. So two numbers are the opposite, subtract the two numbers, 6 and 5, you get 1. And then whichever one of the numbers has whichever one of the numbers is bigger, so 6 is bigger than 5, take the negative from the 6 and apply it to the answer, so it's negative 1. That's the first example of the book, how they offer to do it. And then the next example tells you to use the number line. You can always draw yourself up a little number line, put 0 in the middle, negative numbers to the right or left, positive to the right. And then simply if you have one of each, you can say, okay, I'm on the number line. I got negative 5. I go back 5 spaces to negative 5, and then it's plus 8. Now I go 8 spaces to the right since it's positive. I end up at positive 3. Okay, so you can use a number line even to draw out if that makes it easier for you. All three of them are options. I'm not the kind of person that says do it this way, always do it this way, because I know people learn differently. Some people see it one way, some people don't see it another way. I say whatever way works best for you. Try all three. Try my way, say the money thing. Try the book, the first book way, subtract the signs and see which ones gets the bigger, or use the number line. All three are good. All three are going to have the right answer. And just depends on how your brain thinks. Some people, think different ways. I don't want to lock you into a box and tell you have to do it this way when another way might work better for you. Okay. Let's see. And the bottom is just simply all addition signs, as you can see, positives, negatives, all that different stuff. I do a lot of those. Flip the page over to 76. We're talking about subtraction. And again, you can do these a couple different ways, a couple different mindsets go into it. As you can see, the examples all the top, you see all 3 minus 5, 3 minus 4, 3 minus 3, 3 minus 2, and so forth going down. What the book suggests, and I personally like this too, is you can always change all subtraction to addition. And what you do is, when you change the subtraction in the middle to addition, just change the sign of the second number, the number after the sign. So in that first example, as you see, it's 3 minus 5. If you look after the arrow, it's changed to 3 plus negative 5. That's the exact same question. It's just set up two different ways. 3 minus 5 is the same as 3 plus negative 5. If you change all the subtraction to addition and change that second sign, then all the rules that we just talked about from the addition page will come into play. You don't have to worry about, different rules, different things to worry about. If you change all of them to addition, you're only dealing with one set of rules. And then if you find your way to do it, you're doing it all the same way. That's what I suggest. But again, if that doesn't come across as easy to you, subtraction can be something where you can do it kind of like, the addition. Again, like 3 minus 5. You can look at that, like I said, with money. You start out with $3, and then the minus 5 is I'm giving $5 away, or I'm losing $5. What's the end result of that? I'm down $2, negative 2. You know, just go straight across the top on an example. You look at -4 -2. Look at that money. I owe $4 over here, and I also owe $2 over here. So what's the grand result of that? -$6. The one thing to notice in there too is if you'll see the very last example on the left-hand column, at the last one at the bottom, 3 minus and then parentheses -1. Now, why that -1 is parentheses is because they want to separate the minus with a subtraction sign. If those parentheses aren't there, those have a tendency to run together. So when you subtract a negative and they're right beside each other like that, that in essence becomes a positive. Think about it. I always try to relate this to life. If you have something negative in your life, let's just say it's a bad habit. I don't want to go into. I like going into examples because, I'm worried about I could offend somebody. But like if you have a bad habit or something in your life and you take that away, it's actually a positive thing. So if you take away a negative habit, the end result is a positive. So same thing kind of apply here. I know it's kind of a cheesy little illustration, but if you subtract a negative number, those two cancel each other out to become positive. So as you can see at that example, that 3 minus -1 turns into 3 plus 1, which of course is 4. And as you can see in the right-hand column, there's several more of those examples. And kind of what we talked about there at the start of that subtraction, if you change the signs, so if you change that subtraction to addition, it also changes the sign of the second number after the sign. So minus -1 changes the subtraction to addition, boom, and then -1 turned into +1. So 3 plus 1 again, 4. At the bottom, the subtraction starts out with right the opposite of each number, and then the middle section says rewrite each subtraction problem as an addition problem. So just what we just said. So number 7, -7 minus 4, you would change that to -7, okay, plus -4, okay? I hope that makes sense. So right now, as it's written, it's -7 minus 4. So in essence, what that's, if you spoke that out loud, you start out with -7 and you're subtracting +4 is what that sentence, what it looks like right now. Change the subtraction to addition, but then you have to change the sign of the 4 to positive or to negative. So then it turns into -7 plus -4. Now you go with the rules of addition. Both signs are the same. Add them. I owe 7 over here. I combine that with owing 4 over here. I owe 11. Or both signs are the same. Add them together. 11. Keep the same sign. Negative, negative, negative. In the bottom, it says about find each difference. And again, it's basically the same as 7 through 12. Just rewrite each one as an addition problem and change the sign of the second number. Okay. And the last kind of page, really, of the operations section is 77. It's multiplication and division. Actually, I think it's a lot easier. Basically, there's 3 kind of rules of 2 really, but if the signs are the same, so if you're multiplying 2 positive numbers, it's positive. If you're multiplying 2 negative numbers, it's positive. So if the signs are the same on the 2 numbers, they're both negative or they're both positive, the answer is going to be positive. So -8 times -7, positive 56. Positive 8 times positive 7, positive 56. Okay. If you're dealing with one of each, one negative, one positive, the answer is always negative. Doesn't matter which number is bigger, which one's smaller, that doesn't matter. If it's one of each, the answer is always negative. -8 times positive 7, negative 56. Positive 8 times -7, or I'm sorry, negative 56. -8 times positive 7, negative 56. Positive 8 times -7, negative 56. Okay, very easy. And division is the exact same thing. So if 2 signs are the same, you're dividing, it's positive. If there's one of each, it's negative. Very basic. The one thing though that gets a little bit tricky with that once in a while you'll see is if you see the bottom of 77, 19, 20, and 21, those are obviously just three fractions. But remember, a fraction can also be like a division problem. Okay, the numerator divided by the denominator. And all three of those fractions can be reduced. Well, when you reduce a fraction, what in essence are you doing? You're finding a common factor that divides into them. You're dividing. So like in the first one, -2 over -6, what goes into both of those numbers evenly? And your first thought is to say, well, 2. Well, in this case, both numbers are negative, so it really has to be -2 going into both of them evenly. So when you divide a -2 into both those numbers, all of a sudden everything becomes positive, 1/3. Okay? So when a fraction is negative, the whole fraction is negative, and you're reducing it, it actually turns into positive. So -2 over -6 turns into positive 1/3. Now the 20 and the 21, since one's negative and one's positive, the answer stays negative. So 20, what goes into both of them? 4. 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into -8, -2 times. So it stays 1 over -2. Okay, so you have one of each, one positive, one negative. Rules of division apply. One of each, it always is negative. Okay. Like I said, multiplying and dividing seems to be 10 times easier than addition and subtraction. After that, all you have is word problems and the skills checkup. And again, it's just a quick review of what you just learned. Again, the only thing I kind of frown upon is that they use decimals, they use some fractions, which I kind of, say it's not really cool because we're talking about integers, which don't involve those numbers. But I think that's all I have to add. A bit of good news, Devin English, who is on the roster, I'm sure some of you know, he's offered to video for me from now on. And if he does that, obviously we can do it with me in front of a board where it's not going to be backwards, and it would be really awesome. So when he comes back into town next week, I plan on taking advantage of that so we can set up a thing where he can video. It would make things awesome for you guys and for me. Depending when he comes back, I even might try to do another integer thing just to show some examples, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. If there's, again, questions on this that you don't understand, like I said, I attached another YouTube video. The guy's doing the basic operations. He explains it not quite as detailed as me, I don't think, but it's at least a visual. You're seeing the numbers and him writing them on. He only does them one way, but he talks about the signs, if they're different, to subtract and use this bigger, and if the sign's the same, to add and keep the same sign. But it's still good because it's a visual. Okay. I think that's about it for integers. The test should be up not too terribly long. So again, I think everyone's caught up. We had some people that were behind for Resurrection Week, so I think we're all caught up now and ready to go. So tips to people though, try to make sure if you set your time to take the test, there is a time limit, but it should not be a factor as far as like, oh, I don't have enough time, because it's like an hour and a half and usually 25 questions. That's like 6 minutes a question. And a lot of questions, boom, you can do in like 15 seconds, a lot of the basic ones. So, but thing is, I think a lot of people are starting it, not able to finish, and then trying to come back, and it's not going to let you do that. Once you start it, that time limit goes, and once it's out, it's done. We can reopen it, but it's kind of not fair, because then you've seen questions and you're going to come back and take it again. So try to plan at least giving yourself an hour, I guess, especially if it's something you struggle with. And if you only have 10 or 15 minutes, best just step aside, and come back later. If somehow a situation arises where you need more time and you're like, hey, I really haven't had a window and need an extension, please just email me. We can always work something like that out if I see you haven't even started it. So again, the goal is to learn. The goal is not to, try to hammer on people and hold you, rig across the coals. The goal is to learn. So again, any questions, go to the discussion board. Email me. Again, look forward to Devin being here so we can do some videotaping. And hope you guys are having a blessed week. Take care. See you soon.